All right, we're going to get going here. Thanks everyone for joining our webinar, Creating Your Path in Information Security. My name is Chris Besh, and I'm the VP of Sales and Marketing at TrustedSec. I've had a lot of people reach out to us regarding how to get into the industry, what certifications you need, education, etc. We hope this answers a lot of those questions. Before I introduce our speakers, I wanted to touch on a couple items. First, we recently wrote 2 blogs that complement the webinar. The blogs are titled "A Failure and Success." The other one is "How I Can Become a Pen Tester." The blogs can be found on our website, and the links will be shared in the chat section of the webinar toolbar. Second, we will leave time for Q&A after the presentation. Please type any questions you have during or after the presentation in the questions section of the webinar toolbar. We'll try to get to all of them today, and if we can't, we'll send a follow-up to everyone who attended. You can also feel free to reach out to us directly after the webinar at info@trustedsec.com. Let's get started. Here's the agenda. The goal is to talk for about 25 minutes, and I know there's going to be a lot of questions, so hopefully leave the rest of the time for questions and answers. Next slide. So for TrustedSec, here's a quick background of us and our mission statement. We're an information security consulting team at the forefront of attack simulations with a focus on strategic risk management. Our goal is to help organizations defend against threats of all kinds and change the security industry for the better. So again, given a quick background here of TrustedSec, this slide shows a few of our differentiators. At the forefront, we have senior level resources that speak and teach at conferences all over the world. We've created an amazing research team that I'll touch on in the next slide, and we've created many open source tools that are used by our competitors. Those can be seen on our GitHub page. For integrated risk managers, we have an advisory division that works closely with our technical team. Taking amazing pen test results and integrating into a risk assessment can really help build the security posture of an organization. And lastly, we're truly an extension of the team of our clients, regularly on calls after engagements to assist in any way we can. Getting back to the research team, we have a group led by Carlos Perez, who's also known as Dark Operator on Twitter, and also made up of folks of X 3-letter agencies. This group regularly works with our different divisions to create new ways to break into businesses to help lead to the best engagements possible. Our CEO, Dave Kennedy, recently did a webinar, The Evolution of Pen Testing. I highly recommend listening to it if you haven't already. It helps explain the importance of a research team, given how it's getting harder and harder to break into businesses due to the improvements in defensive tools, technology, etc. Here are some of our core services. Red and purple team have become much more popular as of late. Including those test results in one of our risk assessments is a pretty common practice as well. Now for the speakers. The first is Adam Compton. He's a senior security consultant and does internal and external penetration tests at TrustedSec. He will go into his background, so I'm not going to go any more into that. The next speaker is Tyler Hudak. He is our incident response practice lead. His group does IR work and forensics, threat hunting, malware analysis, IR tabletop exercises, user education, and more. With that, let me turn it over to Adam Compton.
All right. This is Adam Compton here. Hope everybody can hear me fine. Let me see. Do I have control of the slides here? No, I do not.
Go ahead.
There we go. Oh, let me go back one. Went too far. There we go. All right. As it said, my name is Adam Compton. I've been in information security for quite some time. Got my start in InfoSec, I guess you can call it that, at a bright old early age of about 4 or so when the Commodore 64 came out. I was lucky enough to have my parents get me one. They thought it would be the future, and it turns out it was, so they got that. Learned how to do some basic programming early on the Commodore. Throughout school, I ended up learning other languages, Pascal, going into C, C++, Java, so forth throughout there. Speaking of which, I was at the University of Kentucky for a while, majoring in computer science. While there, I ended up doing some cooperative education, intern opportunities at various companies, including the Department of Defense. Once I got out of there, once I got out of undergrad at University of Kentucky, I went into University of California at Davis in computer security. And finally, I ended up landing my first official permanent position. Initially, I thought I was going to go into a software development role, but the department or the office I was planning on going into kind of disappeared between me applying and being accepted and me showing up for work. So there's a whole different story I can tell about how I ended up there and all that, but ultimately I ended up falling into a pen testing position, and I loved it. I mean, I've been doing it for the past 18, 19 years now. I've went private industry here and there as well, and now I'm working for TrustedSec, loving it here. And yeah, that was a very abbreviated version of my path to getting to where I am right now. We'll hear a different path from Tyler here. I'll go ahead and let him tell his story.
Hey everyone, this is Tyler Hudak. Much like Adam, I started off kind of in a similar route. I started programming on one of the old TI 99 4As when I was 8 years old. My parents got me one for Christmas and just fell in love with using the computer and programming on that. From there, through high school, I learned, you started off in BASIC, learned some Pascal, and then went off to college where I learned more Pascal, C, C++, and earned my computer science, bachelor of science at the University of Akron. Like most people at the time, I thought I was going to go into programming and ended up falling into doing Unix systems administration, which was a great background for me to learn how systems worked. And between the administration aspect of the jobs that I had and the programming background that I had and that I had learned in college and high school and throughout my whole educational career, it gave me a really good background and basis for security. And so I ended up getting lucky, got my first information security job at a private company about the time when most security jobs were either government or military. I've been in information security for about 20 years now. And so back then we didn't have near the amount of jobs that are around now. But I ended up doing a lot of different things in information security. I've done information analyst, policy generation, did pen testing for a while, but I finally fell in love with malware analysis and digital forensics and incident response. Went through that, learning everything that I could where I could. I did a lot of online challenges or capture the flags contests to increase my skills, and have been doing incident response ever since, and just absolutely love it.
Awesome, Tyler. Thank you for that. From our two little stories of how we got in here, you can tell that we had a similar path in there, but wasn't exactly the same. And your path or anybody else's path is probably not going to be the exact same as either of ours. There's not just one way to get into InfoSec, whatever target role you're pursuing. There's going to be any number of different ways to get into InfoSec. I've had coworkers, friends that got into InfoSec that came from programming backgrounds, system administration backgrounds. I had one who was a biomedical background who had a midlife crisis and decided to get into InfoSec as later on. I've had ones who were secretaries or administrative assistants who worked at InfoSec companies and decided they liked it, so they cross-trained into becoming a pen tester, stuff like that. Everybody has their own background and their own story of how they got into it. And just because there's a path that one person took to get into InfoSec does not mean that's the path that you have to take or that everybody has to take. There's tons, and there's possibly a near infinite number of different ways to get into it. So let's go ahead and start talking a little bit about some InfoSec careers here. So first of all, as I said, there's not just one InfoSec career. Well, there's not just one path, nor is there just one InfoSec career either. There's a couple different types in here. You have attacker or defender. You have another one in there, sort of your incident response, malware. Personally, I feel that falls a little bit more on the defender side than the attacker, but you still have to understand both aspects of it very well. Actually, if you're an attacker, you need to understand the defender side. If you're a defender, you need to understand the attacker side. There's not a definitive line separating any one of these, but these are your basic concepts in there. You have an attacker, a defender. Some places will call that the red team or the blue team. It all depends on how you want to view it. The attackers are the ones who try to figure out how to break systems, get into systems. The defenders are the ones who are trying to figure out the best ways to secure systems, to prevent people from getting into them. But in doing so, you have to understand how people attack them and vice versa. malware analysis, incident response, forensics, all play a huge part in all of InfoSec in general, because once an incident does happen, somebody's going to be there to take a look at it. And that is, like I said, those are just some basic concepts, basic types of careers in there. There's a huge number of different titles, different positions in there. You have some people who go into it just to do pen testing. They don't want to do the red teaming. There's a whole different scenario in there between standard pen testing and red teaming or adversarial simulation, whether it's blue teaming, whether you're a developer, you're in DevOps, you're an auditor. There's all different kind of careers in there. A lot of people, when they hear InfoSec or want to get into the field, they focus too much on, I want to be red team or I want to be malware. And they put on sort of blinders in there. Don't do that. Just realize that there's a whole spectrum of different careers in the field. And just because you're an offender or you're a developer doesn't mean that you don't need to understand what an attacker does or vice versa, because it'll help you at your job. So the more you understand about the different categories, the different types of careers are going to help you out. And also, there might be one in there that's a better fit for you than just a standard pen tester or a red team. I know those get a lot of news and notoriety, but those don't have to be right for everybody. Pick the career that's best for you and go after that. So how do you pick your path to your destination there, to your final career? Well, that is one thing that a lot of people have come to me over the years and asked me, and some of the basic kind of questions I get asked when I tell people I'm a pen tester or I'm in InfoSec, and they're like, hey, wow, that's great. How can I be a hacker? Or what are companies looking for in employees? I have a background in system administration. Would that work? And they come up with all these different questions like, do I need a college degree? What certifications do I need? Do I need to know how to program? That's a big one here recently. So we'll be touching on most of these questions. We'll be touching on all these questions in some degree, some of them in more than others. And but I'm just letting you see, these are the kind of questions that I hear over and over. And so I want to try to cover some of those in here. First of all, how do you get to be a hacker? It's more of a process than it's more of a journey. I would say that. But in general, though, let's go on here. What are companies looking for? There are two basic characteristics of companies are looking for. The first ones are ones that are more inherent, something that isn't necessarily quantifiable. It's things like, are you a hard worker? Do you think about problems analytically? Are you self-motivated? Is your boss going to have to come over you and push you along the process of every single thing you do, or are you going to be able to go, oh, okay, so I did the engagement, now I need to write the report. So you're self-motivated, you're getting started with all that. You see a problem, you want to solve it, things like that. Those are some of the kind of things that companies are looking for. Can you do this? Do you have a history of this? How do you present yourself? Stuff like that. Next is some other stuff in there that is where a lot of people get hung up. It's like, do you have experience? Well, you get the age-old question of, how do I get experience if I can't? The only way I can get experience is if I have a job, and I can't get the job if I don't have experience. We'll be talking about that a little bit in a moment. How knowledgeable are you on a topic X, Y, or Z? A huge one here is, are you well-spoken? Are you able to present yourself coherently? Are you able to write or do public speaking, stuff like that? Those come in handy very well if you're in one of these forward-facing positions like a pen tester, red teamer, things of that nature. Auditor, because you're going to have to go out and you're going to have to talk to the customer. You're going to have to possibly talk to CEOs or presidents of companies, things like that. And you need to be able to present yourself well in those circumstances. If you're in a position that you're going to have to write something, you're going to have to know how to write well and convey your thoughts well, can present the information to the customer in a meaningful way. Those are some very important characteristics in there that companies are going to be looking for. And finally on there, I'm throwing in certifications. In some circumstances, those are going to be very useful to you. In all circumstances, it's not going to hurt you to have them. But some companies and in some positions, they're more important than in others. There's a huge debate out there in the industry whether certifications are necessary or what value they are. We'll be talking about that in more detail a little later. But in general, I'll say anything that you can do to help show your abilities and your knowledge and experience is never going to go wrong. It's going to only help you in the long run. So let's go ahead and get moving on through here. So more about how do I gain experience? Well, you can take classes or go to college. I know some people don't like going this path. That's fine. You don't have to do everything I'm saying on here. These are just ideas, ways to get you started. Pick and choose from them, whatever you wish. There's other courses out there, whether it's science courses, there's online courses, even if it's just watching YouTube videos as courses, anything you can do to help gain that knowledge, gain that experience, it's going to help you. Actual hands-on classes and college courses and stuff like that are going to be better, in my opinion, but it doesn't have to be just that. A big one that a lot of people recommend is build a home lab. If you're going to need to get hands-on experience doing something, whether it's securing a system, it's attacking a system, whatever the case is, having a target network to go against is crucial there. You can build these home labs relatively cheaply, almost for free in some cases. You have services out there like VirtualBox or VMware ESXi, which is free for certain versions of it. You can set that up on old hardware. You can throw on old versions of Linux on those boxes. You can there's versions of Android you can install on there. There's grab an old system of yours that has an old Windows key, throw it on there. There's old versions of if you go out to the Windows website, there's 30-day or 60-day or 90-day licenses of some of their operating systems for testing that you can put on there. You can build up these kind of systems like this very easily. There's also other websites out there like VulnHub, which host vulnerable versions of applications and target operating systems for you to do challenges against. You can install those on these ESXi or VirtualBox servers and go against those. Grab some tools, try them out. Anything you can do to help build experience with it is going to help you out there. If you're so inclined to do capture the flag competitions or hacking competitions, such as Pico CTF or KringleCon is going on right now. It's put on by John Strand and his group over there. There's all kind of other capture the flags out there. They don't have to be organized ones like at conferences or DEF CON, something like that. There's any number of them that are free to use or free to participate online, stuff like that. Get on there, try them out. You don't have to win. Anything you do is going to help build experience. A lot of these also will have write-ups that people have done them in the past. If it's ones that are just ongoing or free to use that people have already done, written them up, so you can try it, read their write-up, and help gain more experience by doing it and learning from that as well. Hack the Box and other sites like that are open hacking lab sort of environments. Hack the Box is very similar to VulnHub, as I was saying before, where there's vulnerable systems that you need to target and so forth like that. These are all ways you can legally hack systems without actually going against somebody and being in big trouble. These are sites that authorize you to do this, sites that welcome these kind of experiences so that you can gain the experience and learn as you go. Personally, I don't participate in bug bounties. I just never got a flavor for it in myself, but I know a lot of coworkers of mine, a lot of friends of mine love bug bounties. They get out there and they go after them. Yes, you have to have a little bit of knowledge and background to do it in some cases, but it's a way to, again, legally hack within certain constraints and guidelines, website and application, stuff like that. Please go out there and try them if you wish, but absolutely follow the rules and regulations put forward by them so that you don't get into any gray or dangerous areas legally there. But all of these are ways you can gain experience without actually having a job. Along with that, you need to have knowledge to back it up at times. Again, take classes, go to college. That's what they're there for. Attend security conferences. I threw up some of my favorites up there, DerbyCon, any of the B-sides suites of them, DEF CON. Some of these are great conferences. Most of these have their videos recorded and put up on YouTube later, so you can watch them there. There's some great topics thrown out there, cutting edge, zero-day stuff thrown out there, as well as other talks about getting into InfoSec, development stuff, blue team stuff, other aspects out there that are relevant to InfoSec career. There's probably hundreds of thousands of hours of videos out there already from these conferences. But also attending the conferences is great because you get to talk to the people that are there. You get to interact with them, get firsthand knowledge and interaction with them to see what's going on. Watch InfoSec videos. I just covered that as well. Read books. These are two of my favorite little books here. They're short little books, not very big, but it's RTFM, the Red Team Field Manual, and the Blue Team Field Manual. Not just those. I just threw them up as references, but any number of books out there. If you're interested in hacking, go get like counter hack books. Go read like the Hacking with Metasploit book. Go get whatever you want. There's a corresponding Blue Team books and all that. InfoSec, malware. There's awesome books on all of those. You might be able to find them in your local library. It might just be something that you have access to some other way, or at your university, at your school. Worst case, borrow them from a friend, something like that, or buy them if you want to. But yeah, books are always a great way to gain knowledge, and they're a quick reference if you have them in your possession to look up later. Meet people in the field, talk to them. As I said, at conferences, go to conferences. Don't just go there to attend the classes or the presentations. Those are great, but also you have the opportunity to talk to these people firsthand, ask them questions, get real-time feedback from them. You can build some lasting long-term relationships with these people. And I will say that by meeting and talking to these people in person will be very beneficial down the road when you're looking for a job, because sometimes they will remember you. They will have positions in their company. They can tell you heads up like, hey, we're going to be looking for some new intro level pen testers at our company. I hear that you're still looking, and they might hook you up, not necessarily hook you up with a job, but they'll give you the knowledge that, hey, we're going to be looking for people soon. Please apply. I think you'd be a great fit. Or they might be able to point you in the right direction, let you know when their company or somebody else's company is looking for something. These kind of relationships help very much with getting your name out there, getting people to understand who you are. Learn by doing. The more you do stuff, the more you learn from it. We get back to the topic of how to present yourself. Having all the knowledge is great. Having all the experience is great. But if you're in a position where you're going to be writing a report, giving some sort of deliverable to a customer, getting up in front of people, you need to be able to present yourself well. Not only that, but you also have to be able to show that future employers that you know how to present yourself well. You can do this by things like starting a blog. You don't have to write up cutting edge stuff on there. Just write up your experience and saying like, hey, I decided to try this particular CTF. Here's my experiences with it. Here's what I did. Or here's this great pen testing tool or this great security tool I just heard about. Doesn't matter if other people have written it up already. Go ahead and write it up. More you do that, the more it ingrains it in your memory so you understand it better. But two, it gets something out there for potential employers to be able to go and look at to see like, oh, this person has looked at these other tools, has looked at this CTF, and they can also see what your writing ability is in there. If you're a programmer or want to participate in other programs, get a GitHub account, get a GitLab account, upload your code, contribute to somebody else's code base. Anything to get that information out there. If you're going to be going into a position that you want to do some coding in, it's great to have samples of your code out there that employers can look at, that coworkers can look at, stuff like that. It helps present yourself to the company. If you're so inclined, make videos yourself. I make a few little videos of my own. I know a lot of other people who do like live hacking videos, or they go after certain CTFs or hack the box sort of competitions. They're like, here, let me do this on Twitch. Let me record it on YouTube and upload it so that other people can see how you present yourself, see how you handle yourself in conversation, what your technical ability is. That's another great way to show it out there to potential employers. Attend conferences, meet and greet people, a great way to do that as well. If you're so inclined and you want to present at conferences, as I said before, it doesn't have to be anything cutting edge. It can just be your experience or whatever it is that you are knowledgeable about. Present on it. A lot of conferences have started doing sort of that intro track. It's for people who haven't presented at conferences before. I know B-Sides Las Vegas has that. I believe, well, several other B-Sides style conferences have started doing that as well. I believe some larger conferences has started doing that as well. And it's sort of that intro to getting up in public speaking, getting out of your shell a little bit, because if you're going to be in a position where you're going to be doing this on a regular basis, you need to be able to get comfortable with it, and it also helps showing future employers. Two follow-ons to this is, if you're going to be applying for a job, which otherwise I don't, either way, you need to have a well-written resume. Write it up, hand it off to friends, have them review it. There's online resume review services. Check them out. Make sure it's well written. Make sure there's no grammar or spelling issues in there. Make sure just your standard things in there. Make sure it looks proper. Make sure you're not lying on it. All your standard stuff. Do mock interviews. Have your friends or current coworkers or classmates or parents or relatives, whatever, run mock interviews with you. Here again, a lot of conferences have started doing this as well. They'll have sort of the we're hiring track. It's where you can go in and talk to them and set up mock interviews with them. You can hand off resumes to them. It's another great way to interact here. Also with conferences aren't always expensive. A lot of them are free or very cheap in the case of B-Sides conferences. Some of them are expensive, but yeah, it's a great way to get out there and meet and greet people. Getting back to certifications, this is going to be a touchy one for a lot of people and a lot of companies. I've worked for companies that are like, you have to have these certifications even to work here. And a lot of other ones are like, it's nice if you have them, but it's not required. So take it with a grain of salt. It's whatever what it is, but are they required? It depends. I will say that it depends on your potential employer. If they say that it's required, then for them, yes, it is. But there's a lot of employers out there who don't require it, but they are helpful. One, it shows the employer that that you know some level of you have some level of ability, you have some level of knowledge. In the case of GIAC certifications, it shows whatever it was, whether it's the wireless pen testing, it was the security essentials, whatever it was, you have that level of knowledge and you've had some training and some testing on that. You have the OSCP, same sort of thing, CSSP, Certified Ethical Hacker. There's a lot of great ones out there. Will I say that they're absolutely needed? No, because there's enough companies out there that don't necessarily require them, but having them is never going to steer you wrong. Having them just puts you that much further ahead of anybody who doesn't have them, but otherwise has the same experience as you. It's those little niceties that a lot of employers are looking for. But if you want to take them, absolutely go take them. They're not that cheap in some cases, but just letting you know that there are a lot of great certifications out there. There's a lot of questionable ones, but any of your GIAC or your SANS classes and certifications are relatively good. Your offensive security ones are great. I know a lot of other people, there's online ones you can do as well. CSSP is a requirement for a lot if you're dealing in the federal space, or some companies require that of all people coming into the field. But yeah, go out and read up on them, take them if you are so inclined. Look at your potential employers. Do they require them? If so, you might want to look in getting them, and so forth. Some last questions. Should I stay general? Should I specialize in a particular topic? My personal experience is I tend to specialize around the programming aspect of things. I'm better at internal pen testing than I am at web apps, let alone incident response. I've dabbled in that over the years, but I will not say that I am an incident response person or expert by any means. But I do specialize in one area, and I would generally recommend that for anybody. Is you find that one thing that you're good at and you're really interested in, and dig deep in that. Learn that better than anybody. But at the same time, don't do that at the expense of everything else. Get a general knowledge of everything else, because it's going to help you out. And like, even if you're an attacker, learn some of the defense stuff. If you're a defender, learn the attack stuff. You don't have to go deep dive into it, but you need to understand it enough that you can carry on conversations. If you're thrown in a situation, you can think about it a little bit. But typically, I would recommend, this is my personal experience, others may differ, but I would recommend having a general knowledge, but specialize and deep dive in one area that you're really interested in, you're really good at, and become really good at that, be essential in that area. That way, you have a knowledge base that others may not have. It's a better selling point for you, things of that nature. As I said, it depends. Do I need to know how to program? Yes, no. If you're going into a software engineering or developer position, absolutely. Otherwise, the general ability to script, whether it's in Bash, PowerShell, Python, whatever, is going to be very useful and almost critical for you in some cases. But is it required? No. Should you know how to program or at least script? Yes, I would recommend it. Others have different views on that, but I will say that it's not a requirement, but it's definitely something that's going to put you a step up above other people if they don't know how to do it. And when it comes into a pen testing or any kind of situation, and something comes up, it's going to definitely help you out there. Finally, do I need to learn particular operating system, particular hardware, particular topic? Really, that falls into what position, what company you're going to work for. If you're going to work for Cisco, you need to understand the Cisco architecture, the Cisco operating systems, stuff like that very well. If you're going to work for Apple, obviously, there, so forth. It depends on the company. And pick your employer and your knowledge base accordingly. So in closing, ultimately, you decide your future. You decide what careers you're going after. You decide what knowledge you want to learn, all that. It's up to you. It's not up to somebody else. You can sit here and listen to me talk, but ultimately, it's you making decisions. It's your future. It's your life. You need to make those final decisions on that. Also, there's not just one InfoSec job for everybody. There's a wide spectrum of them out there. Everybody has their own experiences and talents. Play to yours. Get good at yours. And everybody has a different path as to how they get into InfoSec, so forth. Find what you're good at, what you enjoy, and try to make a career out of that. And always keep learning, keep expanding your knowledge base. The more you learn, the more that you're critical to your company, the more that it's going to help out your career, and the better you're going to be at your job. And I'll hand it back over to Chris and everybody, but that was my little slides through there. And I believe we're ready for questions if no one on my side over here has anything else to add.
Yeah, Adam, that was great. Thank you very much. Before we go into the questions and answers, I'm going to give it to Tyler just because he's got a perspective on a couple things he wanted to touch on as well. So thanks, Adam.
Oh, absolutely. Sorry about that. Sorry,
No, thank you. That was great. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, everything that Adam was going over and saying, I 100% agree with. That one thing that I just want to stress even more is that you can't underappreciate getting those soft skills, being able to write, being able to talk. And trust me, I understand better than anyone that, I went into computers so I wouldn't have to interface with people. I'm more comfortable sitting in front of this keyboard and looking at this monitor than, going and talking to anybody really, or presenting in front of a conference. But you still need those. I mean, if it comes down in an interview process between you and somebody who has that experience speaking or writing or has that blog, they're probably going to go with that other person. So do yourself a favor and go out and learn how to do that. With the Adam talked about a lot of really great conferences that you can go to and speak and learn from. I've also noticed that there are a lot more information security related meeting groups popping up. So either that being InfraGard or a local group by you, go there and you'll definitely network with the people in your environment. You'll get a chance to speak. And some of the best talks that I've ever seen at some of these meetings have been things like where somebody was teaching themselves something or learning how to do something, and they were just going over what they were learning thus far. They weren't claiming to be experts in any way, but it was just great to hear them with their experience. And, I ended up learning stuff as well because they're going through things, making mistakes that I hadn't made before. So with that, I think we're going to go through some questions.
Yep, exactly. Okay. And then So here, do you have them? Okay. Okay, so we do have some questions here, which I'll read off and get Adam and Tyler's perspective on them. Please send more. We've got some good ones, and we could, we still have a good 25 minutes or so we have time to answer a bunch of them if you have them. So the first one is, any difference between GIAC and CompTIA certifications?
I guess I'll grab that one.
So
the GX certifications are the certifications that you get from taking a SANS training or going through the SANS courses and taking their exercises or taking their tests. CompTIA, I will admit, it's a certification out there. I don't know as much about that one. I do know, at least with the GX certifications from SANS, if you have one, that is a really good, in my opinion, thing to have. It shows that you went through the SANS training, which of course is not cheap, but there are ways to make it a little bit cheaper. But it at least shows that you have that knowledge backed from SANS itself. Adam, do you have anything to add for that one?
No, I just concur with what you're saying there. In the pen testing field, in the blue team field, I see more of the GIAC or SANS certifications than I do of the CompTIA, but I personally never went after that one, so I can't really speak too heavily on it. But yeah, in general, I would agree.
Sorry, there we go. Staying on the CompTIA security, somebody said, the question was, is it a good practice to take up a CompTIA security plus for the beginners to get into cybersecurity field?
I think, honestly, any certification that you can get is going to give you that leg up. It shows not only that you've gone through the process to learn something, but you have that certification backing it to show that you, in theory, do know what that course or what that topic was keeping or teaching. I'm sorry. So in my opinion, if you have the opportunity to do it, I absolutely recommend going through it and doing it.
Agreed. Anytime you can learn something, it's going to put you a leg up over somebody else, especially if you can get a certification out of it as well. That's just going to add to your repertoire, add to your clout when it comes to applying for positions, applying for other things like that. So yeah, anytime you can gain extra knowledge, regardless of what the cert is, go ahead and go for it. Unless you're having to pick between two different ones, then there's different considerations. But if you're able to get that certification without much, go for it.
Okay, perfect. What do you think of eLearn security courses? eLearn security courses.
From my perspective, I have no experience with them. I've heard good things about them, but I don't have any personal experience with it.
Okay. Same here, Tyler. I can't really speak too much on it, but as I said before, I'd have to see them really to understand what level of detail they go into and all that. I don't have that much experience with it, but going back to the other one, if it's good knowledge, good presentation, absolutely, because it's going to help you out down the road. It's going to add that extra level of knowledge in there. But I can't really speak to them per se because I don't really know it that well. Thank you, though.
Yeah, and just to circle back on what Adam had talked about before, some of these places like eLearn Security and Pluralsight and that, they do cost money to get access to their courses, but there are free courses online on YouTube. If you're interested in a specific subject, search for it in Google, search for it on YouTube, and you'll probably pull up a number of videos or conference talks on it. There are some places where you can get access for free into these resources as well. I know MSDN, if you're an MSDN member, you get access to some of these courses for free. So a lot of colleges now are offering that if you're a student. So look around. Even your job may, where you're working, they may have access into these courses for you for free. So look everywhere you can, and you'd be surprised where you can find them.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Adam, I'll direct this one at you. And obviously, we have really great red teamers here at TrustedSec, and you're on and great pen testers. You're on the pen testing side. Do you have any advice if somebody wanted to move from pen testing to red teaming, how they could do so?
Yeah, it's one of these things that in order to do red teaming, you have to understand how to do pen testing to begin with, because you're using a lot of the similar techniques, concepts, all that. You just need to go at it from a more adversarial mentality. It's one of these things that you're still going to be doing a pen test, but you're trying to do it in a way that's slower, stealthier. You're trying not to tip your hand while you're doing it. So if you're used to doing a pen test, and the first thing you're doing is running nmap and nmapping everything, and then you're going to password spray across the board, that's not going to cut it in a red team. In a red team, you need to be a little more stealthy than that. You're cherry picking what you're going after. Also, depending on what kind of a red teaming company you're working for or position you're going into, most likely you're going to need to know more than just pen testing. You're going to need to know social engineering, possibly physical security as well, things of that nature, because you're going to have to possibly make use of those sort of techniques and attacks in order to gain access to the network that you're going after. Also, there's this great thing called living off the land law scripts now. Well, it's not just new, it's just people start giving it a name now. You're going to have to start relying more on that, I guess, as opposed to using your standard tools, because sometimes you're going to get onto a system that has great security on it already. You've got onto it somehow. As soon as you try to upload one of your standard pen testing or hacking tools on there, it's going to get flagged, it's going to set off an alert, and you're going to tip your hand. Whereas if you know how to use the scripts, use the tools that's already in that operating system, that's already been whitelisted, you need to get familiar with those, and it's not going to trigger anything as easily as if you upload something, let's say, like Mimikatz or WCE or something like that. So it's one of these things. It's just the next level of pen testing. You need to understand how to do some things without tipping your hand, without being noticed, without your typical bag of tricks under your belt, bag of tools. You need to also understand how to do command and control architecture. There's a lot of great tools out there, a lot of great videos on YouTube at conferences on how to set up C2 environments, to talking about how to build red teaming and all that. I'd heavily recommend looking at that. But yeah, to me, it's sort of the difference between doing algebra and calculus. You're doing the same stuff. It's just you're having to focus a little better, and it's a lot different mindset that's wrapping around it in some cases. But hopefully that answered the question. Hopefully I didn't ramble too much on that.
No.
Yeah, sorry about that. Thank you.
And you actually answered another question. They were asking if there's any videos or books for pen testing, red teaming, and you had touched on there's a lot of videos from conferences. A lot of the conferences, the keynotes and all the different courses or the speaking are on the internet. I know B-Side Augusta just put theirs out here today. I saw online, and so that's a great way to sharpen your skill set and to continue to learn, right, Adam?
Absolutely. I know most of the B-Sides conferences upload theirs to the internet at some point. I know I just came back from Wild West Hacking Fest. I believe all of those are up now. All the DerbyCons are up there. Previous years of DEF CON's videos are all accessible as well. So there's hours and hours and hours of videos out there for you to go look at if you're so inclined to do it. And there's certain sites out there like Iron Geek. He records a lot of the videos for some conferences, and he uploads them to his site as well as YouTube. You can search through them. Just go out there. There's hundreds. I mean, I can't even imagine how many videos there are, but yeah, there's tons of them out there that can give you insight into each and everything that you're interested in.
Okay, great. Okay, next question. Do you have any recommendations for prep before starting Hack the Box or VulnHub? Any bare bone beginner resources you recommend? Adam, maybe that might be better for you.
Get into VulnHub. There's different levels of them on VulnHub. I would recommend just going into one of the more basic ones, one of the more novice or intro level ones, and try those out. By all means, try them out first. Even if you get stuck in there, great. You tried it and you got stuck. But a lot of these will also happen to have write-ups for them already. And go and look at the write-up that somebody else has done. There might be multiple write-ups. Go and read them, see how they did it, and then step through it with the write-up and do it as you're reading through it. Again, that builds muscle memory. It builds knowledge, all that. And then once you do that, then try to do it without reading through the write-up. Then go try another one and another one. it's more of just doing it. Just get out there and do it. Read the write-ups on ones that people have already done. Read the write-ups on some CTFs out there. Stuff like that. Now, Hack the Box is a little different. Hack the Box does have some write-ups that they're for their older systems that they have expired or they've deprecated, but for their ones that are actually active, they don't typically allow write-ups for those. But they have a large number of systems also that have been back shelved or whatever that you can go in and see write-ups for that people have written up. There again, seeing how other people do it. Don't just read one person's write-up. Read multiple people's write-up for the same virtual machine, for the same box, to see different techniques that they've used. All of that just helps build your repertoire of tags that you can then later use yourself.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Adam. We're getting some questions around is TrustedSec hiring and what are we looking for? If so, to answer that, yes, we are hiring. Right now, we're looking for senior level incident responders, pen testers, red blue teamers, and application security testers. Again, right now it's senior level people with an established track record, but that's going to change down the road. We're in the process. We just started, we got land to build a new building. It's going to take about a year and a half, the process. And the new building is going to have tons of class space, meeting space. So the goal is to formalize an internship program and to create more developmental type roles at that point. So I'd say, keep an eye on our social media accounts. We're very, we do a lot on Twitter, do a lot on LinkedIn, Facebook. Keep an eye on it for that. For we're gonna have a career page that we're rolling out, long overdue. I apologize for that. That'll be rolling out. And then, so keep an eye for jobs, but also keep an eye on our social media accounts, because we do some of the, some of our methodologies, or some of our secret sauce that we do, we end up posting it out there, some new open source tools and stuff. So you can learn a lot from following us. So thanks for those questions. Next question, I recently learned Java and CCNA. Are these skills valuable in the cybersecurity space? The emphasis has been on learning Python, which I am still going to learn.
This is Tyler. From my perspective, I would say absolutely yes. Java is still used a lot in the industry. Obviously, I can't speak from it from the red team perspective as much, but from my perspective, I see Java used a lot. There are some major Java backdoors out there. I worked a case recently within the last year or two where the way that the attackers got in were through a Java backdoor. And the fact that I knew how to decompile the Java, I knew how to read the Java, helped tremendously. And if you can program in Java, you can probably program in other languages too. And more importantly, you can read those other languages, which you're going to have to do. For CCNA, yeah, that's giving you the background in networking. If you've been watching the news recently, there have been a number of BGP issues lately. That's one of those things that is kind of a mystery to a lot of people, even in security. And I have to imagine that by taking the CCNA, you're going to know about that stuff already. Have that base knowledge that you can use, so you can jump in and use your skills where you need to. Yeah, absolutely. Python is, one of those languages which is kind of ubiquitous across security. Blue team uses it, red team uses it. Same with PowerShell. But when it comes down to it, learn all you can, and nothing you learn is not going to help you, nothing that you learn isn't going to help you in your career. You'll always have that little bit of knowledge that you may not be able to apply directly, but it'll at least give you some base knowledge that you need.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Thanks, Heather. What are some, I know we touched on this a little bit, what would you say are some good entry-level jobs that a person breaking into the cybersecurity field should look for or consider for experience? Adam, you want maybe? I know you touched on it a little bit. Maybe.
I'll go ahead and I'll mention a couple, and if Tyler has any to add, that'd be great. I would actually say a lot of companies are looking for intro or analyst level or junior level pen testers. You might not be able to, in that position, you might not be doing like the large corporations, you might not be doing engagements by yourself, but you'll probably be teamed with somebody that's more senior to do those. And depending on the company, depending on the position, there's various levels of requirements in there. Some of them require certs, some don't. Some require just a few years of college. Some say anybody who has the knowledge base and aptitude can do it. But yeah, there's always those junior level or analyst level pen testing positions. There's also, don't knock the other side of it as well, doing system administration. There's lots of intro level system administration positions, doing a Unix admin, doing web application administration, doing development positions. Anything of this is a great leeway later on into another position in InfoSec. As I said before, there's not just one InfoSec career path. It's not pen testing or IR isn't the end goal for everybody. Some people want to go into DevOps or development or system administration. Depending on whichever direction you want to go, think about what might aid you in that and see if there's any intro level positions for that. Like I said, I've been around a lot of people who do intro development and intro or junior level system administration, stuff like that. Those are out there. Tyler, did you have anything to add?
No, I mean, everything you said is what I was thinking. The only other thing that I would think of is, at least from the blue team perspective, a lot of organizations now are creating security operations centers or SOCs, and they always need people for that. I mean, the jobs aren't the most exciting all the time, but you will absolutely learn a lot by looking at alerts, looking what's valid, finding out what's a false positive and why it's a false positive or why it's legitimate. That's where I would focus on if you're interested in that side.
All right, thanks. And this one's a little bit more specific. So being a programmer for 10 years, I'd like to move into the security field. What would be a good security role to apply the skills that I already have? So programmer for 10 plus years. And anything in particular that you guys would recommend for that background?
The first thing that comes to my mind, actually two things come to my mind, and that would be either doing tools development for either research or offense or defense. We always need new tools. Tools need improved. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of open source projects out there that you can work with, and that would be a great way to start off. If you're not interested in that side, if you know how to program, learning how to reverse engineer is probably not too far down the path for you if you don't already know how to do that. And you can specialize in so many different things with reverse engineering. You can do exploit development, the bug bounties that Adam talked about before. You can reverse engineer malware, firmware, just so many different options for you right there.
Absolutely. I agree with everything you were saying there, Tyler. The ones that popped in my head were malware analysis, tool development, and code reviews. It's not a huge demand for it out there, but there is definitely, every company I've ever worked for has had a fairly steady stream of requests coming in to do code reviews. And typically those get handed off to the people who know programming and all that. It's not the most glamorous position to go after, but there's definitely a need for it. There's definitely a constant stream of work for it. I know people who just do that all the time. And if it's something that you're interested in, that'd be a great one as well, because understanding how to program and the kind of mistakes and the kind of loopholes and the kind of shortcuts that you typically make when you're coding, those are the kind of mistakes other people make. So you're already that much ahead of the curve on those. So just throwing that out there as another alternative. So awesome.
Okay. So a couple other questions came in around avoiding burnout. So obviously there's so many different ways to continue to grow in the field with, the different talks you can view online, going to all the different organizations, meeting people, things like that. So how do you balance it to avoid the burnout? I don't know if...
Adam, do you want to take this?
No, you go ahead, Tyler. Go ahead.
What I was going to say is, I've experienced this. I know a lot of people who have experienced this. In my opinion, the best ways are, find a hobby that's not security, that's not computers, and have that where you can devote attention elsewhere. And also, make sure that you have time to focus away from it. We had, especially in incident response, and when you're working with clients, really for anything, it can be very high demand. And so make sure that you have that way at some point to break yourself away. I worked remotely for at least the last 10 years. And at one point I had to learn that I needed to just, set a certain time at night, that unless something major was going on, that I would walk away from the computer and not turn it on for the rest of the night, because I would find that I was working 12 to 15 hours a day without even realizing it. And that was just causing me to burn out right there.
Absolutely, Tyler. And I actually went through this whole process myself. I don't know how many years ago it was now, but I'd been doing pen testing nonstop for a good decade at the time. And I was just getting tired of it, getting frustrated with all that. And what helped for me is I actually took about a year and a half to 2 year off. I took a break, not out from InfoSec, but I switched over to a different career path for a little bit. I went into security research and tool development. I went full on into that for about a year and a half, a little bit there. It just reset my brain and all that. It let me get a diversion away from what I was doing, try out some of my old skills and software development that I had. And it just gave me a break. And then after that, I was ready to get back into pen testing, and I loved it ever since. I came back into it and all that. But as you were saying, a great work-life balance is critical to all of this. Don't live to work. You work to live. I know that's a horrible saying, but it's true. You have to, like you said, you have to set that time. Like at me, I've been working from home office for a number of years as well. There's that time that I have to step away from my computer. I have kids and a wife. I have to go spend time with them as well. But yeah, if I don't do that, you will burn out quickly. So yeah, absolutely. Make time for yourself.
Yeah.
Have hobbies.
All right. Thanks, guys. Next one. We might have missed this. Which is better, SANS Certs or EC Council? They both have similar certifications, i.e., for example, EC Council offers the CEH. However, SANS offers multiple pen testing and ethical hacking certificates.
From my perspective, I'm not going to touch that. Everybody has their own opinions on it. I think that there are pros and cons to each, and that's kind of where I'll leave it, except to say that I've never heard of anybody not gaining knowledge from taking either a SANS or an eCouncil course.
Absolutely, Tyler. I'll leave it at that as well. They've all been great, and I've had some courses and certs from both of them over the years, and it all depends on which one is teaching the knowledge that you're wanting at the time. Go after that. So.
Okay. All right, great. Looks like from something we're obviously TrustedSec headquartered in Cleveland, but we have consultants throughout the world. But this looks like somebody from Cleveland. What I know we touched on some of the groups: B-Sides, NEO, ISF, which is a Northeast Ohio one. What other groups, local groups, are there that you guys are aware of? I know there's ISACA. There's ISC Squared typically has local chapters. ISSA.
Yeah, ISSA will have some. Yeah. OWASP typically has some local chapters as well. InfraGard, which is the joint partnership between corporations and or the private sector and the FBI. At one point, the Secret Service had their own group as well. I don't know if that's still around, but there are a lot of local groups that just meet up on their own. So, the best thing that I would say is, just kind of Google around and see if you can find anybody, or if you're on Twitter, look to see if anybody who's local to you on Twitter is mentioning any groups.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Tyler. What do you guys think? More certifications or more projects for a student? Which is a better focus?
For a student, I'm going to assume that they mean a college level student, not high school.
Yeah, I'd assume college.
It's kind of a catch-22 question, I think. If you're in college, then you're gaining that college knowledge. I would think that unless you're studying, and this is just my opinion, like Adam said, everybody's path is different. But if you're in college, it means you're gaining that knowledge. And unless your college is, going to give you some certifications at the end, which some college courses do now, I would say, and again, in my opinion, focus on like one or two projects and get the hands-on knowledge from that.
I would definitely say from my path through life, when I was in college, I was learning a lot from my classes, but then I did my intern or cooperative experience work experience there where I'd take a semester off, go work, come back, and all that. And in that process, I actually learned more real life experience from it doing the internships at companies or working on their projects, stuff like that, because I was in software development and they're like, here, you need to do software lifecycle, you need to do these write-ups and all that. And it's only so much you can beat into a student's head. But when I went to work on projects at real companies and all that, I saw how critical it was to have well-documented code and all your write-ups and all that. It really hit home for me to understand that is critical. You need to know these things. And it gave me a new perspective on what I was learning. So, yeah, I mean, getting the certifications is awesome as well, the knowledge that comes with that, but having real world or real project level experience is unbeatable in some cases as well. So,
yep. And then, as you said before, Adam, blog about kind of what you're doing the projects, just so you can show your employers. I mean, not certifications that you can put next to your name, but it's real life experience, things that you've done that you can keep a tally. So it's almost like a resume.
Awesome. Absolutely. Yes.
Yep. Okay, great. All right. Now here's one for you, Adam. Opinion about certification progression for pen testing. I've obtained ECSA, CEH, and ECSA, as well as eLearn Security, EJPT, and ECPPT. Is OSCP my next stop, or do you have another suggestion?
I mean, there's not necessarily any next stop in the process. It's if you're wanting to get into like whatever your certs that you already have, those are great. But now if you're wanting to get into malware analysis, if you're wanting to get in something else like that, or you want to get it heavy into web apps or mobile applications, those are different paths to take that what you've already had might touch on in some cases, but probably wasn't very heavy in those areas. So OSCP wouldn't necessarily get you into those as well. So you might want to divert off to another path on that. It all depends on what you're wanting to do next. If you're going down the path of pen testing, OSCP is a great one, absolutely. OSCE, their whole path of their the offensive security certs is great. I would also say the SANS path there, the GAC path with the X40 path, the 440, the 540, 640, all those, or 60s. I forget which one it is. But yeah, the security ones, the hacking ones going up through there. I forgot the number off the top of my head, but all of those are great as well. Depends on what you want to learn. The OSCP is great, and it definitely shows if you got your certification that you can think on your feet, you went through the whole labs, you can do these sort of hacking challenges, all that. But it is very focused on that as well. I mean, there is some variety in there. It all depends on what you're going after. I would never say that the OSCP is never a good cert, because it is. It's a great cert to have. If you think that you can do it, definitely go after it. I can't think of any that would fall in between what you have and it that would be a filler. So go look at it. You can always take a look at some of the stuff. You can take the class without taking the cert. You can get lab time. You can do all that. They definitely help you out through the process, but it is it is an intensive process. I've went through it. I know a lot of people have went through it. Yeah, you're gonna have to dedicate a good portion of the next couple months to it if you're gonna go through it. So just be prepared for it.
Okay. Thanks, Adam. All right. I see we're over here. So we'll make this the last question. Maybe we'll get a follow up to some of these remaining questions. I think we've touched on this a few times, but maybe just one last words of wisdom here for folks. So an IT cybersecurity undergrad last year has been applying for entry in junior positions with no luck. Thinks it's a combination of age and lack of certifications. What might be a way to jump these hurdles on a limited budget and time?
From my perspective, I think it just goes back to a lot of the things that we already talked about. If you're just graduated from college or you're still in it, you check with your college. There may be ways for you to get at some of these certifications or get at some of these online courses to kind of jump those hurdles and gain that knowledge. Like we said, blog, go through and start a project and blog about it and blog about your mistakes. That's fine. That to me, as if I was hiring somebody and I saw that they were talking about their mistakes, that's a good thing. That means you're learning from what you're doing. And I would also say, don't discount that, your resume that you're sending in may not be the best. Search out help for it. There are a lot of free resources online. One that comes to mind, the Breaking Down Security podcast has a great Slack channel, and there is a channel dedicated to looking at resumes, so and updating them for you and getting feedback. So use resources like that to help you out.
Absolutely. I would also add in there, I don't know which positions, which companies, which job offers you've been presenting toward, but maybe widen your scope a little bit. Think of companies that you might not have ever considered going into because you're like, oh, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe they're not hiring people like that. Apply. Sometimes you'll be surprised. Sometimes they will take you on, things of that nature. But yeah, it's just keep your options open and everything Tyler said.
All right, perfect. All right, well, I think that's it. So we will share the any follow-up questions. Well, there's, like I said, a couple blogs that we did leading up to this. We'll share those. Maybe some follow-up questions and the replay to everybody that joined. So I just want to thank everybody who joined for taking the time, and Tyler and Adam, really appreciate all the the presentation and answering all those questions for us. And so that's it. So thanks everybody, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you all.